In this week's episode of Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, we're talking about Max Scherzer's injury and the implications it could have for the Texas Rangers. Mike Trout on the trading block, a big injury to a Major League Baseball prospect, one of the best in the game. What could it mean for that team? And a bourbon review of Remus Repeal Reserve, Patch 7. We've got that and more coming up in Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, episode 42. Stay tuned.
This is Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
And welcome in. This is Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Michael. We talk bourbon, we talk baseball, high proof, high heat. It's been a couple of days since Michael and I got to see each other. Mikey, how you doing over the last couple of days?
I'm still clearing my throat every few minutes, but doing pretty good. The Cubs won as soon as I left town,
and then they've lost 2 in a row. So we'll get to that. How's the weather down there?
It's nice. It's low 80s. Got to go enjoy a walk without getting all wet and everything.
You have a 10-degree temperature threshold, don't you?
Yes, it's about up mid 60s, and then it goes up about 10 to 15 degrees in the morning. That's it. But the popsicles don't melt as fast now. That's nice.
Oh, that's good. I was saying your tolerance of the temperature is like a 10-degree threshold. Like 68 is cold for you.
Oh, absolutely.
But like 85 is too hot. So there's just a threshold.
I'll take that. I'll take that 80s, lower 90s any day.
Lower 90s. Well, that is not where our proof is on the whiskey we're talking about this week, and we'll jump into that here in just a second. We are here in episode 42 of Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. We usually talk about who is the best number of the episode that we are on, so this would be episode 42. That would mean Jersey 42, and I think it's a no-brainer. Michael Burns, did you do any research on this topic?
It's Jackie.
Mariano Rivera. Oh.
It's Jackie, baby. It's Jackie. It's Jackie.
It's totally Tim Anderson. I mean, he is the best number 42.
That's what I said.
Oh. He said Jackie, right?
It's Jackie.
Yeah, so
the
Tim
number's
Anderson.
Retired. They do a Jackie Robinson every day. It has to be Jackie.
Yeah. It's going to be Jackie Robinson. I will say Mariano Rivera, I think, is going to get an honorable mention just because not only was he the last player to ever wear it, he was the player who wore it the most, 19 seasons, and his WAR was actually really close to Jackie Robinson's, and he did that as a closer, full-time. 53 or 56.3 WAR as a closer in 19 seasons. Jackie Robinson was 10 and 63.8. Of course, Jackie Robinson, he's got to be number 42 because he broke the color barrier. He was an MVP. He was a Rookie of the Year. He was in the MVP voting every year except 2 out of his 10 years in the big league. Wow. That is incredible.
It is.
And he only played 10 years. He had 141 home runs. He stole 200 bases. His career line, 313, 410, 477. If you do the quick math, it's an 887 OPS. His OPS plus in his career was a 133, meaning he was 33% better than the average player in the league. Dude was a stud. And I wish we would have had a little bit more time with him. Of course, he didn't make his MLB debut until he was 28, retired after his 1956 season at the age of 37 with the Brooklyn Dodgers, all 10 years. But, wow, what a career and a legacy. I kind of wish we were doing this on April 15th in 2024 just so we could give him his proper due because that is Jackie Robinson Day every year. But, yeah, number 42, no-brainer.
Right. I think
Jackie Robinson.
Another fun name that it sparks my childhood a little bit is Mo Vaughn. He wore it for 12 years. And just the name, the guy, he was just a character in my mind. That's how I remember him. A fun player.
Who do you remember him on the most? I think I'd probably think of the Angels just because that was more of my developmental baseball years, 99 and 2000. But I think a lot of people remember him with the Red Sox. That's where I think he spent a majority of his career.
Yes. Yeah, he spent 91 through 98 with them, the Angels in 99 and 2000, and the Mets for his final 2 years of wearing.
Yeah. Number 42.
Number 42.
And then I think they retired at that point, and he had to change his number. Didn't he?
Yeah, I feel like he played longer.
Yes, I do too. It says it's only 12 years with the number. Oh, it looks like he only played 12 seasons, all in the number 42. Did not play in 2001 because of a major injury. Another name on that list is Bruce Sutter, Cub and Cardinal, as well as Atlanta Brave. But yeah, no doubter, Jackie Robinson. This is the Jackie Robinson episode.
Here we go.
Which is kind of fitting because we've got another legend to talk about in this podcast a little bit later on. So welcome into episode 42. If you're new to us, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. As of last check this morning, we were at 749 subscribers. So don't forget to join our team. Hit that like, hit that comment. Also, let us know what you think about this podcast and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon. That'll let you know when our latest podcasts are put out. We're growing. We're continuing to grow. And we've got some exclusive YouTube content week in and week out. Our Thieves of the Week and our Top 10 Power Rankings, along with some baseball shorts. Also, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, we have a second YouTube channel strictly for bourbon. Check that out. At BNB Bourbon. That's where you can find all our bourbon reviews, all our bourbon hunts, everything solely bourbon. Maybe some funny TikTok-style shorts. So go check us out there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, all with the same username, at Barrels, the letter N, Barrels Pod. So Barrels N Barrels Pod. On X, formerly known as Twitter, it is just Barrels and Barrels, and that's our email address, barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can probably listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, and Amazon podcasts. Don't forget to hit the rating button. We're at 20 out of 20 at last check. 5-star reviews on Apple, 14 out of 14 5-star reviews on Spotify, or those are 5-star ratings. We'd love to hear a review. Write down what you think about our podcast. We'd love to hear it. If you like it, if you don't like it, what you'd like to see more of. And don't forget, you can do that in YouTube as well. If you like our t-shirts that you've seen possibly in previous videos, I've got the same type of t-shirt, just my own logo, but Barrels and Barrels t-shirts available at CharlieMikeNeverWeekend.com from our friends Charlie Mike Never Weekend. $25 out the door, and we've got glassware. We're both sporting a different glass tonight. I've got our Whiskey Wisdom glass. And Michael, what you got?
I've got our Tuist glass going on. It's got the nice little thumbprint for you to give it a little swirl without touching the glass.
Mm-hmm. Without warming
nice,
up
elegant lip. That's right.
And it holds a lot, too. If you want to go for a big pour, it's probably like a 5-ouncer, I bet.
Absolutely. This holds the sample bottle right here. So what, 2.5 ounces right here?
Yeah, that's about 2 ounces. So I would say it's probably about a 5-ouncer if you fill it to the brim. So we've also got Glencairns and hats. Neither of us are wearing them, but mine's already packed because I'm going on a trip starting tomorrow, the day that this podcast drops.
Oh, boy.
This podcast, the whiskey section at least, is brought to us by Whiskey Towers. Use promo code WhiskeyWeather, all capitals, WhiskeyWeather at whiskeytowers.com. Michael Burns likes to call it a beer tap for your whiskey.
Everyday players, baby. There's nothing better than to put your everyday players in that to just easy access.
Easy access, just the way we like it, right? Just easy access.
As if it wasn't easier and more tempting to ever drink bourbon every day.
Yeah, all you gotta do is pull the lever and put a glass underneath. Sometimes you don't even have to do that. You just put your
I
mouth.
was thinking the same thing.
So use promo code, all capitals, WhiskeyWeather at whiskeytowers.com. So without further ado, this week's whiskey of the week is Remus Reserve 7. This is a yearly put out whiskey by the folks over at Ross and Squibb Distillery. That's out of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. That may sound familiar because it's MGP juice. So that's actually they've got a couple different branch companies out of it, but Ross and Squibb Distillery out of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. This Remus Reserve is the 7th annual. This comes in a limited time bourbon, 7th annual offering from those guys over there. It launched this month. It just came out this month of September in honor of National Bourbon Heritage Month. So this is comprised of 5 different whiskeys, and I'm going to read them off to you. 6% of it comes from a whiskey from 2007 at 21% rye. So if you do the math on that one, that is 16 years old on that whiskey. 26%, so about a quarter of it, from a 2013-year-old bourbon. So that's a 10-year-old bourbon at 21% rye. 21% comes at 2014 bourbon, 21% rye, and then the last 2 bourbons are all the high rye from MGP. That's going to be 60, 36, 4 for the mash bill. 26% of 2013 bourbon and 21% of 2014 bourbon. So that is a 10 and a 9 year. I did the math. It averages out to about 9.94 years old, ranging from those 9 to 16-year-old bourbons. And I did the math on the mash bill here. That comes out to be 68, 28, 4. So it's a little higher in the rye capacity, not as high as a 36% rye bourbon from MGP, but 28% up there. Annually, this drops for about $99.99. I believe 2 years ago, the 5 was at $85 or something along those lines. Last year's 6, which I also had, and we also reviewed, which check that out. We just popped a link right there on YouTube for you, and it is in the bio below if you want to check that out as well. We both rated the 6. Do you remember what we rated the 6 at?
No, I can't. I want to say an everyday player.
We both went everyday player on the 6. So, will it live up to the 6, or will it be better? From what I hear, the reviews are the 5 is still the best of all time.
That's what I was going to say. I got a I got a spitful amount of the 5 from my neighbor, and that's what really got me on to this Remus Repeal Reserve.
Yeah, so number 5, from what I heard, is the best. That's also the one that has the oldest age statement on it. Last year's, the 6, was actually the youngest age statement out of the 6, and now that still remains the case because this 7 is the second youngest. Again, if you average out the age, is like 9.94 years old, so almost 10 years old when it comes to the whiskey as a conglomerate, but it has to be labeled as 9 years old because it is the youngest juice in the bottle or in the barrel that they blended. So this does come out, and it also pays homage to the Repeal Act of the 21st Amendment, December 5th, 1933. That is where it gets the Repeal Reserve. As you know, or if you don't know, George Remus was a big bootlegger here in Cincinnati, actually.
Really?
He killed his wife in a place right by my work, actually.
Yeah, he killed his wife.
Yeah, he's a real good dude. Let's name a whiskey after him. So, Remus Repeal Reserve, number 7, we've already poured it. Again, 100 proof. It's not a bottled in bond because, I guess it meets all the criteria. It was distilled and aged in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, but it was not all in the same season. So that is why it's not a bottle in bond, because it has to be aged and distilled all by the same distiller in the same season. So this is a blend of 5 different years, so it cannot be a bottled in bond despite the 100 proof on the bottle. So 50% ABV. What do you think? Have you given it a nose? Have you given it anything yet?
Yeah.
What do you think?
The nose is I want to say classic bourbon nose because it has a little bit of a good sweetness, vanilla, oak. But it's a good combo of those 3 right there, right away on the nose. It's strong and it smells good.
It smells good. It's definitely a classic bourbon nose to me. With that vanilla, I've got some cinnamon, creme brulee, and oak. I'd say it's a pungent nose. I do feel like it hits you right away once you get the first whiff of it.
Right.
There's I get some ethanol too. Like, there's definitely, you can get the liquor and component of this in my mind.
Ooh, you said liquor, and I smelled some sweet licorice, some red licorice Twizzlers in there.
I can get that. I can
I'm
get
definitely
that some cherry or like a cherry Twizzler.
Cherry Twizzlers, baby, right there. Love those as a kid. You like the pull and peel better, or do you like the regular?
Pull and peel were more fun, and I think they tasted better than the regular.
They were softer in your teeth. They didn't.
Probably. But most of the regular weren't cherry, though. That's the difference.
Oh, cherry versus strawberry.
I'd go cherry all day over strawberry.
Wait, we talking about the bourbon or the Twizzlers here? Hold on.
Either or. I liked the Twizzler bites, though, the cherry Twizzler bites. Those were my favorite of the bunch. And that's what I'm going to say is on the nose here. So cherry Twizzler bite, creme brulee, vanilla, and oak. Have you given that a little Kentucky chew? I guess it would be an Indiana chew on this one. So again, 9 to 16 years old, comes out as an average age of 9.94, 36% rye and 21% rye blends. Again, the mash bill, 68-28-4. Mikey, what you got?
It's not as pungent in the mouth as on the nose. When I say that, the finish is just keeps rolling with Twizzlers here. I It has that classic bourbon taste a little bit. It does roller coaster a little bit. Not too much spice. I do get some oak in the middle there. It's on the sweeter side of things, but it's still lingering for me here as like Twizzlers in my mouth. We're stuck on the Twizzlers here.
See, I'm totally opposite. I do not find this sweet. I do not find this...
Really?
I don't get fruit out of it. I got a lot of pepper, a lot of rye. Like, it's really rye-y to me.
Really?
Like, did you pour the right sample? No, just kidding.
Oh no, I was like, oh yeah, okay, nope. This was a 10th Mountain right here, rye.
Well, then it definitely wouldn't be harsh because that's 86 proof. But this is 100 proof. I've got pepper. Really, that's the only thing I can pull out of it. There's some ethanol to it. A lot of heat to me, comparative to an 100 proof to me. I don't get a whole lot of sweetness. Maybe a little bit of bitterness. Like, you ever had a walnut and you catch a little bit of the inside where it's not the actual part of the walnut itself. It's like the shell, and it's very bitter and dry.
It's like, I can see where it's more of a earthy taste you're getting more.
Yeah. A little earth, a little bit of bitterness, and dry. Like, I'm really like...
Really?
Like, oh, yeah, parched almost. I find it kind of harsh in my mind, to be honest.
You need to take a COVID test.
Maybe. But let me pull from the 6 and see what I think. Because I enjoyed the 6. We both everyday playered it.
Yeah. No, I get a sweetness side of things here. I maybe get a little bit of rye spice, but I'm on the sweet side. This is hitting like 100 proof-ish, no lower. I mean, it's hitting the notes for me.
So you enjoy it?
Yes, I'm enjoying it. It's smooth, I feel. I think it could be a little hotter so it doesn't get so syrupy, but it finishes in the mouth well. It lingers for me. The sweetness is still there while I'm talking here.
So going from 6 to 7, I get a little bit of like an orange peel out of the 7. Still a little harsh though, and peppery to me. Maybe my palate's off, but everything else has seemed fine.
I took a bigger gulp, and when it hits the roof of my mouth, I get that pepper more that you're talking about. But it's nothing. It's not too overpowering or anything. I get the cherry in the beginning, vanilla sneaks in, oak, and this rye spice comes in, and then finishes out in cherries again.
I'm gonna have to revisit this, I think, in a couple of weeks, but. Right now, I get a lot of pepper. I get a lot of harshness. It's very warm. Like, it's not harsh in the fact that I think it's hot. Like,
right.
100 proof is, I think, right on the money. It's very peppery to me, and I usually don't get that. I didn't even get that out of the 6. Again, 28% rye is higher rye, obviously.
Right.
A lot of the stuff we've had as of late is 12 to 18, so... This is of a higher rye component. It's a long finish, that's for sure. I still feel it. It's been about 30 to 45 seconds I haven't, and I still feel the tingling. So I like the finish aspect of it. I just don't get any sweetness out of this, like none at all.
No,
like it's all like woody and woodsy to me.
I mean, I can hit the brown sugars. You said heat. I'm usually thought of like a campfire. I think this would be great in the cold a little bit, right, surrounded by a fire, watching some playoff baseball here coming up in the next month. This would be a good one to sit around the campfire and do that right here.
So on our podcast rating scale, which rolls barrels and barrels of bourbon and baseball podcast rating scale, it's a baseball themed rating scale. Top at the top is Hall of Fame. Second goes All-Star. Hall of Fame is the best it can get. All-Star is just behind that. That's just what you think as a baseball player. Perennial All-Star usually becomes a Hall of Famer. Everyday player is everybody that you look for to be in your lineup every day. Think of a player like Ian Happ or maybe a Nick Castellanos along those lines where you can consistently expect the same thing day in and day out. And then you're looking at a bench player. A bench player is someone who comes in and mixes things up here or there. Maybe not a bad player, just not enough that you want him in your lineup every day. But when he comes in off the bench, you can totally trust him in that regard. And then behind that, we're going with the DFA, which means get off my team. Hasta la bye-bye. Sayonara. See you later. So Michael Burns.
We do not recommend it.
Correct. Where do you have Remus Repeal Reserve the 7th?
I've definitely got this guy an everyday player. I think this is a crushable, sweet, not overpowering sweet, but it's smooth. It's got the oak, it's got the vanilla, it's got the dark fruit in there. It's even got in the middle there. Like I said, it starts with the fruit, vanilla, oak, comes in with the rye, and then finishes dark fruit again, and just sits there in your mouth as you continue to talk. The price point about $99 for a limited release like this that's probably right on par, $100, right? So
that's about where a lot of these are.
Yeah, I'd say this is a solid everyday player.
Everyday player for Michael Burns. I don't always do this. I don't think there's been a time where you've rated something higher than me before, has there?
Not too often.
Maybe once or twice, a handful. But here, buddy, we're gonna have to have a talk. So I'm gonna designate this for assignment in my book. I'm not a fan. I could be dealing with some COVID issues. I don't think so. I feel great. I feel fine. A little sniffly, but
are you trying to sneak it through waivers? Maybe try to sneak it through waivers.
Maybe it's a sneak through waivers kind of deal. I'm going to designate you for assignment, but hopefully try to sneak you through waivers, keep you in the system, and possibly revisit you later on. And then Mark Leiter. Mark Leiter got cut by the Cubs in January, and he's been one of their best bullpen arms. So who knows? We'll have to check it out at a later date. But so far, I think I'd rather take the 6 over the 7 in my book. And the 6 was far disappointing from what I've heard from those who have had all 7. I've only had 5, 6, and 7, and 5 was so long ago that I couldn't tell you which one was which. Yeah. I'd have to side by side them, but I'm going 6 over the 7. I'm going to designate for assignment. That's only my second DFA.
You okay, buddy? You all right?
I'm
quitting after that talk. Did it go okay?
He's crying, but he'll get through it. I mean, well, I've only made a 9-year-old cry once before in my life, so.
Well, right now, at this moment, if you're seeing Brandon, look over at your screen.
Oh yeah, the Braves just clinched. I was going to wait until we got to the baseball segment for that, Michael, but he blew his wad early. Yeah, the Braves just clinched the division. They had a magic number today of 2, and they just beat the Phillies. Of course, you guys already know this. You also see that the Houston Astros throwing another no-hitter so far in the bottom of the 6th inning.
Oh, no.
That'll be something we'll keep an eye on.
Big Inning doesn't have that up for me somehow. There's a no-hitter going on, and Big Inning doesn't have it. Big Inning is trash.
Yeah, well, Big Inning was just showing it to you because you can't watch the Braves because of blackout rules. But that is our review of Remus Repeal Reserve 7. Maybe I'll have to revisit this at a different date, but right now, not a huge fan. I'm going to say DFA. My palate could be all wonked up. I'm going to have to try something else here later on in the podcast and maybe tell you whether or not. Maybe we'll revisit this later on in this podcast after I try something else. But yeah,
in our 7th inning stretch. In our 7th inning stretch, you can revisit it.
So go head on over to our YouTube channel at BNB Bourbon. That is youtube.com at BNB Bourbon for more about this Remus Repeal 7 and other bourbon thoughts. We're talking bourbon hunts. We're talking bourbon reviews. We've got a lot of those up already, and you can also find us at Barrels and Barrels Pod on YouTube. It's allocation season. That's where I just got this. Of course, it's an allocated bourbon, $100. I got it for $109.99. And then after tax, it was like $116. That's kind of why I DFA'd it, because I don't know if I would pay that again for what I'm getting out of this. I thought the nose was much better than the palate in my mind. They didn't match up, and that's where I'm really disappointed. A lot of harsh fry. I still have that bitterness in my mouth, and I haven't taken a sip in a little bit. We'll continue to sip on it here throughout the podcast.
I'll trade you a cigar cut for it.
And that you can do that when you come see me in like 6 months. But as far as our Bourbon and Baseball podcast, it is allocation season. Of course, look out for some of those bottles. Remember, just because it's allocated doesn't mean it's good.
Mean it's worth buying.
It doesn't mean it's worth buying. Doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's worth the hype. But look it up. Look up some reviews if you have any questions. And if we've tried it, we'll give you our honest thoughts on it as well. So not only is it allocation season, it's festival season. Festival season 2. Yeah, I can't even talk. I'm so dry. It is festival season. This weekend, of course, is 2 of the biggest festivals in the bourbon world. That is Bourbon and Beyond, the big concert, Thursday through Sunday, and also KY Bourbon Festival, Kentucky Bourbon Fest. You can find me there. I will be there Thursday through Sunday.
Ooh,
I'll also be at
Weekend
Barrelcraft
Pass.
Spirits. Yeah. VIP weekend pass. Kind of a big deal. I'll be at Barrelcraft Spirits is opening up their blending house on Thursday as well, and I'm going to be representing the BNB crew there, an invite-only thing, so look out for some videos on Instagram from there as well.
That's sweet.
So, yeah, it's going to be a cool weekend, so check us out on @BarrelsandBarrelsPod on Instagram, and also my Instagram handle, which I'm wearing on YouTube, that is whiskey_weather. Let's jump into trivia. That's how we really go from bourbon to baseball. Trivia this week, Michael. I think it's going to be a good one. Who was the last player to retire that was drafted by the Expos? So let me rephrase this. Who is the last professional athlete to retire who was drafted by the Montreal Expos? Not the Washington Nationals, but he had to be drafted by the Montreal Expos.
Does Tom Brady count? He was drafted. He was drafted by them and just retired recently. So if we want to say that, I'm going with Tom Brady.
And that is the correct answer. I thought I stumped you this week. I stumped you. Did you look this up previously?
No, there's so much Tom Brady in the news right now with Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles, and they're like, oh, Tom Brady. So Tom Brady, I just knew Tom Brady was drafted and is an old geezer, so.
Yeah, he was drafted in the 18th round of the 1995 MLB draft. Of course, he didn't go on to play in baseball. He had a decent career in the NFL and just retired at the end of last year. I mean, some call him the GOAT. I just think he was just a guy who is an alien. So that's about it. Dude is not real. He's not a real person. He's gotten better looking as he's gotten older.
That MFer right back there is not real.
And speaking of not real, most people would say for like the last 12 to 15 years, Mike Trout has not been real until he's gotten hurt here the last couple of years. But a latest report earlier this week, that was the big news of the week up until today's news, which we'll get to here in just a second. Mike Trout, potentially on the trading block. The Angels said they'll trade him if he wants to be traded. So, first off, do you think he'll ask to be traded?
So let me reverse it back to you. Do the Angels come out and say this without already having had that discussion with Mike?
Probably not, but why would you say we'll trade him if he wants to be traded?
Because they want to keep their cards tight. So what they're doing is Mike Trout actually already went to talk to them and said, "Hey, we're in a phase. If you guys could find me a trade partner, I want out." And the Angels' way of playing their cards tight and keeping his value higher is by saying, "Hey, you know what? We'll be open to it if Mike wants it." That's their front. That's their way of doing it. Otherwise, they're blindsiding Mike here.
Right.
And that's not a way to treat a player of his stature, a guy who at one point was being talked about as the greatest player of our generation, maybe of all time.
Yeah, that's a good question. But do you think they would trade him? I asked you the question, and you reversed it back on me, so reverse Uno on you, bitch.
Oh, gosh. Do I think they should? Yes. Will they? Yes. I think they messed up on Ohtani. They have one of the worst farm systems. I think they will, and they should, and they will.
What do you think he's worth?
His value is lower than it has been in years past because of his back issue.
I think his value is the lowest that it's ever been.
Right.
But go ahead.
But he still has that potential. How old is he? Is he 31?
I believe he's 32. I think he just turned 32 a couple months ago.
I think at 33 you start to get more into your now 32 is like the top of your prime, the absolute end of your prime now.
Like the end of your prime, yeah.
Right, a few years ago, 30 to 32 was and 33 was the prime. Now the game's gotten younger, and Mike Trout's not like you said. I think he's at his lowest. He's still the dude when he's healthy is still a speed threat on the bases, great center fielder, great bat. He's worth 2 top 10 prospects still.
See, I'm not giving up 2 top 10 prospects for Trout. Like you said, he's 32, so he's on the back half. Usually you're not even giving a free agent at 32 more than a 4 or 5 year contract at most. Mm-hmm. So the question there regarding the health, yeah, he's 32. He just turned that just a month and a half ago, so 45 days ago. Born August 7th in 1991. So 32 years old and 40-something days, according to Spotrac or Spotrac or however you want to say it. He signed a 12-year, $426.5 million deal with the Angels. That was back, I believe, in 19, going into 19. That was the first year of the salary. He's still got 7 years left at an average of $35.45 million a year. So $35.5 million a year. That's what the luxury tax salary will be. That's 2 to 3 players. Cody Bellinger's not even going to be making $33 million a year. I'd take Cody Bellinger over Mike Trout right now for multiple reasons. Left-handed bat, 2 to 3 years younger, healthy. Trout has consistently...
and doesn't cost you any prospects.
Correct. All it costs you is a free agent price. So that's why Cody's going to be higher. But let's look at the last 3 years. So 2020, we're going to throw out. He played 53 games out of the 60-game shortened season. But in 2021, he only played 36 games. Last year, he only played 119. And this year, so far, he's only played 82. So 1 game over half a season. Of course, he still was an all-star. He's been an all-star the last 3 years. I wouldn't agree with the 2021. He batted .333 with a 1090 OPS, but in 36 games, you're not an all-star. That's just because you're Mike Trout. He wasn't an all-star in 2020.
That's the all-star. It's a popularity contest.
And definitely. He's been an all-star every year except 2020. He started at the age of 19. His rookie year was 2012, though. Best player of our generation.
That makes him sound old.
Yeah.
That makes him sound old.
Well, he's been
2012.
2011 was when he actually made his debut in July, but his rookie year was 2012. 13 years in the league. So if he's traded, what teams are out there? I've seen a couple floated. One of them was that the Cubs would be in on this. As a Cub fan myself, love Mike Trout. No, thank you. No,
I don't see a fit with the Cubs just because the Cubs have so many outfielders right now at the major league level and at the AAA level.
Well, you would be trading from that depth to get him. What I saw was Canario, Owen Casey, and a pitching prospect. Yeah.
I don't think that's all that terrible of a offer. I think the Cubs have Ian right now. If you're gonna look at the next 3 years, Cubs have Ian Happ, PCA, and Suzuki in the outfield. Mm-hmm. To just give up Canario and Casey
and one of your top pitchers.
And one of your top pitchers.
Yep.
And those guys tear an elbow every other year. I don't think that's a terrible thing for Mike Trout. If you know that Mike Trout's a little delicate and you know you have to DH him some. But when's the last time? Imagine Mike Trout with protection.
The last time he played a full season, though, was in 2018.
Right. But Shohei Ohtani came to the league, stunk his first year, was injured. Now he's injured again. You take the risk with the injury, of course, and being older. So Mike Trout, you're not going to get Mike Trout of the 2010s. He doesn't have those. He's not young anymore to have those wheels. But what Mike Trout has always had is hit for average and power. And I think by that having that hit for average, that protects you a little bit at a level. So if he drops in average a little bit, he's still hitting 300. The dude constantly hits 320, 330.
He hit 283 last year, 263 this year, 333 2 years ago in 36 games. The last time he hit over 300 in a full season was back in 2018.
Right.
So again,
his last full healthy year.
In 2019, he played 134 games and hit 291. So we can call, and that's the year he won his last MVP. He had a hell of a year slugging, and he hit 45 bombs. I just don't think he's that guy anymore. Sorry, I'm not paying $7 million.
Oh, no,
7
sure.
years, it's 7 years, $245 million with a contract, and giving up 3 of your top 15 prospects. I can't do that as a Cubs fan. Now, some teams that do make sense. I saw the Diamondbacks. That would be an interesting team. They've got a lot of depth and talent to move from. The Padres, they always seem to be in on the big names. If you're not going to re-sign Juan Soto at the end of next year, or do they go all in? You've got Tatis, you've got Bogarts, you got Machado, Soto, and all those pitchers. The Mets.
Imagine that. That's an outfield of Soto, Trout, and Tatis.
Mm-hmm.
That's sick.
Yeah,
that's
sick. Ridiculous. As long as they're healthy.
Expensive, and an expensive losing team.
Another team, the Mets, have been tossed out there. I just don't see them buying right now.
No, bad timing for them.
And then the other one, which actually makes a little bit more sense, and I think probably is the best fit of them all, the Phillies. He's from Philly. He grew up a Philly fan, I believe. Playing with Bryce Harper. Can you imagine Harper and Trout in the same lineup?
You never imagined that. You always thought it was always Harper and Bryant because they grew up friends.
Right.
And Harper and Trout came up at the same time.
And it was kind of like, who's better, Harper or Trout? Harper or Trout the first couple of years. And clearly, over the long run, it's been Trout. But I'd say over the last 3 to 5 years, I might rather have Bryce Harper.
Me too.
So
Bryce Harper is almost a little underrated, if you could say healthy. Bryce Harper, destroys right now.
Mm-hmm. So is there another team that we're missing? I don't see him going to a team in the division. I saw someone list the Texas Rangers. I don't see the Rangers making that move. They've already got Seager. They've got Simeon. They've got a lot of other pitchers like DeGrom on the books. Unless they're going for it for like a win now, but that's not even a next year. You don't even know if you have DeGrom, right? He's not coming back.
What about the obvious New York Yankees?
See, what do the Yankees have other than Dominguez that
to offer?
Like, I don't know the farm system that well, but I know that they were in a top 5, top 10 system, I don't believe.
If the Yankees wanted him, they would throw enough prospects at it to make it worth.
But are we looking at just... See, again...
Because the Angels could look at quality over quantity over quality.
Well,
the Angels aren't the best at trading.
They just got rid of half their damn farm system regarding at least their better prospects at the trade deadline. They're going to pick up one guy for Ohtani when he leaves in the offseason because they'll give him the qualifying offer, and he's totally going to decline it because why would he accept it? His value is going to be possibly 2 or 3 times what the qualifying offer is going to be.
2 for sure.
For sure 2, possibly 3, depending on where the qualifying offer.
2 to 3, yeah.
If the qualifying offer comes out at $20 million, I could say he's worth $60 a year for the next 5 years if he's a pitcher. Like when he comes back.
I would have said that until his UCL injury. Yep. But they haven't said that he's doing Tommy John or not. So.
Right. And if he does, he'll still hit next year. So Judge was $40 million, so that's twice at least. And then if you get him for additional years as a pitcher, his value is way higher than that. Should the Angels trade Trout? Yes. Will they? This organization continues to make bad move after bad move. Rendon, Pujols, not trading Ohtani. What pitchers have they gotten that have worked out? CJ Wilson was trash.
Yeah.
Josh Hamilton, when he went to Anaheim at the time.
The last set of pitchers I can remember was Jared Weaver and John Lackey.
Yeah, and that was back in the
2000.
early 2000s. They won the World Series in, 2002? And that was the Lackey's rookie year?
Was the White Sox? Oh, White Sox were 05. Yeah, it was 02. It was
White Sox was
2002.
05. Yeah, it was
Yes.
2002 versus the Giants, and then Dusty came from the Giants to 03, from Giants to the Cubs. Just Mike Trout.
Yep.
I just don't. I'm not trading for him as a Cubs fan. I'm not. The system's too good. I know not every prospect's going to pan out, but I'd rather put my chips on the younger guys who at least have youth on their side. I'm not paying Trout until he's 38 to potentially miss half the season. He's done that in 3 of the last 4 years. So,
He does have that chronic back issue too.
correct.
That they came out with 2 years ago and said he's gonna have to deal with this the rest of his career.
Right.
If it wasn't for that, I would want him more. But that scares me
Correct.
because you see what Steven Strasburg has a completely different injury of thoracic syndrome
Thoracic,
and everything, and
Outlet syndrome.
that's something completely different. But we saw what a back does to Anthony Rizzo. We saw what a back does to Brennan Davis. We've seen what a back does to Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Back's pretty important in throwing, twisting sport.
Yes, the back is really important. I'm a little distracted here. Abreu still has a no-hitter here into the 8th versus the Athletics. Again, that is Abreu on the Astros. Dealing. Dude is dealing. Going to be interested. Oh, no, it's a combined no-hitter. Excuse me. So
Yes.
Hunter Brown went 5 innings, Montero, Neris, and then Abreu. I was like, I didn't think Abreu started. So, a combined no-hitter here through the 8th. 2 outs in the 8th. So, that'll be something to keep an eye on going forward. That would be the first complete, combined no-hitter this year, I believe, right? We haven't had those yet this year, have we?
I think we have. Didn't the Cubs didn't throw one, didn't they?
No,
Combined
they threw-
no-hitter?
That was in 2021.
Okay.
A long
I feel
time
like
ago.
We've had a combined no-hitter this year.
The Yankees getting
Yes,
it?
no, we have. It might have been the Astros.
Was it?
Framber started it, came out.
Framber threw a no-hitter earlier.
I remember making a post about a combined no-no. Maybe it was the Brewers.
It may have been the Brewers. I don't know. Let's move on. The other big news, of course, outside of the Trout thing, and I think the Trout thing probably still is the biggest news because it's the best player in the game outside of Shohei Ohtani. But Max Scherzer, of course, if you haven't heard the news, sorry, Trey, done for the season. Detroit did it. Detroit did it earlier this year versus the Toronto Blue
There you
Jays. Matt Manning, that's who it was. So, and there's only been 4 this year total. So going backwards, sorry. So Max Scherzer, the big news, he's out for the season. He's got a low-grade strain of his teres major muscle, which is in his upper arm. He came out of the game yesterday, I believe, with triceps discomfort. Says he is unlikely to pitch in the playoffs if they make it there. Huge blow. He was the biggest move of the deadline outside of Verlander, and I'd say he's probably the biggest because he was the first one to go, and it was kind of the sign that the Mets were saying, all right, we are done. What does this do to the Rangers' playoff hopes?
It's the nail in the coffin.
Think so?
Jordan Montgomery Dane Dunning did come out and get a win on Tuesday night, or maybe it was Monday night. But the Rangers could maybe make the wild card, but I don't think now they have the pitching depth. Max Scherzer was supposed to be that leader, that veteran, so he's still in the clubhouse, but that's still they need him to be that number one to shove. But the other teams have better pitching. The Mariners have better pitching. The Astros have better pitching. The Twins might have better pitching.
Twins might have the best pitching in the entire AL, to be honest.
We got who's with the Twins? Sonny Gray,
Ryan,
Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan.
Yeah, and Obear.
Bailey Obear.
So that's
There's 4 right there. Look, quietly sneaking up. Probably the Twins are
quietly sneaking up. Right now, though, as we talk, the Rangers have won 2 in a row over Toronto, and they are currently destroying Toronto 10-0 right now in the top of the 9th. So let's include that in a win. So that means they're going to improve at 81-64. They're going to have a 1.5 game lead over Toronto. Still a lot of baseball to play, but I believe that'll give them the tiebreaker as well. And they have a 4-game series, so they play tomorrow versus Toronto. It's going to be tough. It just seems like I believe 5 out of their 6 All-Stars are done or have been lost for injury. They just lost Adolis Garcia with a knee injury as well. So rough, hard to be a Texas fan right now because it just seems like the team's just falling apart. He lost DeGrom. Oh, there goes the topper to my Remus. Keep messing around. Yeah. So the Texas Rangers lose him. That's a huge blow. Their pitching staff was decimated after Jacob DeGrom. Uvalde has missed some time with arm injury. It was an arm issue, wasn't it? Was it a forearm strain with Uvalde? You've lost Seager for extended period of time. The only All-Star I think that hasn't gotten hurt this year has been Marcus Semien.
Yeah, right. He's not gotten. Corey Seager started the year hurt, but has been an MVP since then.
Well, he got hurt a couple weeks ago as well. He was out for 2 or 3 weeks. Jonah Heim broke his thumb, or that was Josh Jung broke his thumb, wasn't it?
Josh Jung.
Yep. And then I think Heim had a hand injury as well because he hasn't been switch hitting, I believe. So all sorts of issues for Texas. You think it's the nail in the coffin. It's going to be close. They're going to have the upper hand on Toronto when it comes to the placement in the standings. They've won 4 in a row. So despite all of this, they've surged after a couple of weeks of terrible baseball.
Terrible baseball.
But I think their shot at the division has kind of gone. Even though they're only a game behind Houston, I think their shot at the division, I think that's the nail in the coffin in the division. But they still have a chance at the wild card. But I'm probably going to tell all you Rangers fans, sorry, Trey, I think it's also they're done. You have Corey Seager written down. The fact that he got his 1,000th hit, is that it?
Yes, and that he's just in the MVP conversation now. I don't think it's with Ohtani being down. Corey Seager's hitting 340 right now. That I don't think that gets talk when Luis Urias is hitting 350 and like, oh, he's hitting for such high average. Corey Seager's hitting 340, 30 home runs with a 1.055 OPS. I know people keep saying that Ohtani's a lock, but I think it's a deeper conversation or closer competition.
It depends. If Ohtani's out the rest of the year, then I think we've got talk. But Ohtani still got him by 14 home runs. He's still got him by 23 RBIs. He's still got him by 6 RBIs, 23 runs. He's got him by 18 stolen bases. He's got a higher walk percentage than Corey Seager and a higher on-base percentage than Corey Seager and just about the same slugging. And remember, Ohtani's done it in 34 more games than Seager has.
That's what I was about to say. 34 more. So a month and a half probably in baseball terms.
Yes. And still, although he hasn't played in, a week and a half, Ohtani, a 6.6 WAR to Seager's 5.9, and that's only hitting. That doesn't include his pitching statistics earlier this year. And that's why I'd say it's Shohei's no matter what. And also, I'm not giving it to a guy in Seager who, at the end of the year, is probably only going to be playing 75% of his team's games. And I'm assuming Shohei's still going to play probably 140 to 145, depending on when he comes back. And he's going to lead that league in home runs because the next in the AL in home runs is all the way down to Luis Robert at 35. And Ohtani's got 44. So I think it's Shohei's, but no knock against Corey Seager, who's had a fantastic year, like you mentioned, batting .341. That's good for the second best in baseball. But again, Arias has done it in 138 games, and Seager's done it in only 101. But you can't take that away from him. You'd love to.
You wonder what Seager's numbers would look like. I think Seager could have been fighting for Triple Crown if he was here the whole season.
Potentially, for sure. If you extrapolated it through the entire season at this rate, obviously you're saying that he doesn't go on a month-long slump like Arias has, but still very impressive.
Home runs would be close. The average is fantastic. The RBIs are right there with Ohtani, but the I think Ohtani would still have him in home runs. 14 is a big number for a month and a half.
Yes, you'd have to go on a Kyle Schwarber, Sammy Sosa, Trey Turner kind of run, home run wise. So let's stick in that division. Actually, real quick, let's go over the standings as of this recording right now. So at 9:30 on September the 13th, standings are as such. Over on the AL, really, there's two divisions up for grabs, really, I think, in all of baseball. And it's the AL East and the AL West. The AL West, of course, is the closest one. Texas and Seattle, both a game back of Houston as of this play. But if Houston wins, they'll be a game and a half up on Seattle. And they will have a game up on the Texas Rangers. Minnesota, I think we're going to crown them the AL Central champions. They're 7.5 up on Cleveland with, 16 games to play. They're going to have to go like 2-14 to lose that division, especially with the way Cleveland's been playing. So I'm going to say AL Central is Minnesota. And Baltimore and Tampa Bay. That's going to be close. That's going to be real close. They play each other this weekend.
Ooh, that'll be great. That's going to be some great baseball to watch.
Yeah, Baltimore lost today to the Cardinals, so they only lead the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe, by a game and a half. 2 games. They are 91 and 54. And then Tampa is 90 and 57. So a 2-game lead. If Tampa sweeps, it is in Baltimore, but if Tampa were to get the sweep, they'd all of a sudden be in first place. Can you imagine that? In first place, Tampa Bay Rays, where 3 or 4 weeks ago we were saying they were done. They were not even going to make the playoffs.
That was that Wander Franco news. That was their starting pitcher,
which one?
Shane McClanahan.
Yeah,
which one? Shane McClanahan.
Everybody's hurt.
Yep.
So the best division race is going to be between that and the AL West, but I'm going to say AL West just because it's 3 teams all for it rather than the AL East, which is just the 2 teams, and Toronto's in third place in that division, 80 and 66. I'm going to say 80 and 67 because they're going to lose tonight, but they are 11.5 games back. And they are 14 games over 500 and 11.5 games back. You can kind of say the same things about the Phillies. As we just said, the Atlanta Braves clinch 96 and 50. They take 3 out of 4 versus the Phillies. The Phillies in second in that division, 79 and 67. They're 17 games back. 17 games back in second place. How insane the Braves have been.
And first in the wild card.
Mm-hmm. First in the wild card in the NL. And then the Miami Marlins are in third in that division. They've got a shot at beating the Brewers tonight. They're up 2-0 in the bottom of the 7th. I'm also going to say the Brewers probably going to win that NL Central. As a Cubs fan, I just don't think it's going to happen. And then the Dodgers, of course, they're going to run away with the NL West. The elimination number for the Diamondbacks is already 5, and we are a couple weeks away from the end of the season. So Dodgers, Brewers, Atlanta.
Now, the Cubs and Brewers still do play, though, to end of the year. So if the Cubs can keep it close, it could be fun last series.
Oh, it definitely could be a fun last series, but they play the Braves before the Brewers. And who knows where we're... Let's just take it day by day, series by series. But in that wild card, I put a poll out on our Twitter account and our Instagram account. I think the Twitter account was a little biased towards the Reds. It said the Reds. I put the poll was who will get the final NL wild card spot, because I'm locking in the Phillies, and I think the Cubs will ultimately get that. Maybe I just put the kibosh on them. Maybe I just put the whammy on them. But the way it lines up, I have faith that the Cubs will get that second spot. And I'll ask you a question about the Cubs here in a second. But between the Diamondbacks, the Marlins, the Giants, and the Reds, on Twitter it was 56% the Reds, but on Instagram it was 58% the Diamondbacks, and there were more votes on Instagram. I think the Diamondbacks probably pull it out. We saw them in person the other day. Very good team.
They played well. Yeah, even with Tommy Pham was doing well. Pavin Smith, who has been struggling, was still getting base hits for him. They have some guys who can surprise you. Mm-hmm.
The Reds did just beat the Tigers. So with that, and the fact that I believe the Diamondbacks were down to the Mets are up 7-1 in the bottom of the 8th. So it looks like the Reds will likely come into a tie with the Diamondbacks for that final wild card spot. Actually, they're going to jump them. They're a half game back of the Diamondbacks coming in. Oh, no. My bad. They already updated this. So they will be tied at 76 and 71. San Fran will be a game back, and then the Marlins will be also a half game back. So that's going to be a tight NL wildcard. That continues to look like the best race out of anything outside of the AL West. The NL wildcard in the AL West. So the AL West, the Mariners got 2 out of 3 versus LA. The Astros, the issue here is they lost the first 2 to Oakland. They are going to salvage this final game, or is it a 4-game series this weekend or this week?
Today's Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that either. I feel like they were playing 3 games, but I could totally be wrong on this, as it does look like the Astros...
Tomorrow's versus the Royals and Astros.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Astros, I think, get 4 versus the Royals.
No, I'm sorry, Friday.
Friday?
Astros are off Thursday.
Okay, so, yep, and the Athletics host the Padres. So, huge kind of series loss for the Astros. They had a chance to just run away this week by taking 3 of 3 versus Oakland, but Oakland kind of playing the pesky Oaklands here, and they are currently about to lose. That would, I believe, be their 100th loss for Oakland. Ooh, that should have been a strike. But moving on, I was talking about the Cubs. A lot of news behind the Cubs. We're going to be a little more Cubs-centric here for the next 5 to 10 minutes because we're Cubs fans. But big news was PCA got called up on Monday. Number 12 overall prospect in all of baseball, not in the Cubs system. All of baseball.
We're not just hyping up PCA here because he's the Cubs number 1. He is a top 15, top 12 MLB prospect overall.
And he came up and made 2 amazing plays in the outfield on Tuesday night, but then he
made him look easy.
But he also made a mistake that led to I believe, a run earlier today in that game where they lost to the Rockies. So that's been the big hype. He's got 2 starts in a row. He started against lefty, and the Astros just gave up a hit. So the no-hitter ends at 8 1/3 of an inning. So no combined no, as it looks like. Was it Noda who just got the base hit?
Yep, Noda.
Yep. So
Ryan Noda.
Off of Presley. They brought their closer in to get the no-hitter. What do you think of that?
They have the day off tomorrow.
True. But what do you think of it? I don't know when the last time he pitched was either, but that's an interesting move. But going back to the Cubs. So the Cubs, they call up PCA. I do think he's going to be a great role player, and this is going to give him some experience. I think this is more of not just a move for this year, but a move for next year as well. Because he's likely now, in my mind, to start the season in the majors next year. Because that gives them the potential to get him Rookie of the Year. And if he finishes in the top 3 in MVP voting before his arbitration years or after his full contract, they also get the potential to draft pick. So big moves there. I think it gives them a spark off the bench, potentially. A left-handed fast hitter with some contact and a guy who can go get it in the outfield.
From what we've seen in the first two games, it was weird because they said he's going to be activated Tuesday, and then you saw him pinch running on Monday. So that was a little weird.
Jeff Passan said he was going to be activated Tuesday. The Cubs never said anything. That was just Passan's report. But he got called up on Monday and made his debut. Got a pinch hit. Not a pinch hit. He pinch ran, then fielded, and then he got a sack bunt down, I think, to win the game. Yes. Help win the game on Monday. And a second hit for the Oakland Athletics, and they score a run. So the A's might mount a comeback. Who knows? 1 out here in the 9th. I doubt it.
6-1.
So on top of that, Marcus Stroman threw a bullpen, I believe, yesterday or Monday. I don't remember what day it was, but there's potential talk that he could be back. We both talked about it this past weekend in person, but we thought maybe more of a relief role, but he might be on a starter's pad. That's back-to-back bullpens and simulated games. So even if you're getting 3, 4, 5 outs, or 3, 4, 5 innings out of him, and then going to a different arm, maybe that's a Jameson Taillon or a Javier Assad, who have not looked good in the last 2 games in the series. I don't think you're taking Wicks out of that rotation. You're probably taking one of the other 2 if he comes back. Or do you bullpen him as like a piggyback guy.
Yeah, I don't think he has time to build up his innings to then come in and be as a starter. He can easily be, excuse me, an opener where he goes 3 innings, maybe 4 at the most, but he doesn't have the time to build up to be a 5, 6, 6, even 6. I was going to say 7, but that's still value. I think you might see a better a good Marcus Stroman then because he doesn't have to save some juice for later in the game. He can throw it all out there. Have Hayden Wisniewski come in after him.
Drew
Javier
Smyly.
Assad hasn't been going longer. Yeah, Drew Smyly. Javier Assad got pulled last night, in the 4th inning, 1-0 game?
No, he had given up multiple hits in hard contact and walks. He walked the bases loaded. So, yeah.
But still, he only had 1 earned run at that point. And then the bullpen fought all game.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you probably move Assad. He did give you 8 innings, but since then in Cincinnati, he went 5 2/3 versus the Diamondbacks on Thursday, and then only 3+ versus the Rockies yesterday. So the last game that Stroman pitched was versus Cincinnati on July 31st. So he would definitely need some time to ramp up. I do think you're going to get 2 or 3 solid innings out of him when he comes back. I do think he was dealing with injuries in the month of July because before that he was the best pitcher for the Cubs, and that's saying something because Justin Steele is right now the odds-on favorite to win the NL Cy Young.
Right. I even got notifications from MLB.com that there's a new favorite for the NL Cy Young today, and that's not our bias here.
No, 14
MLB.com
votes.
posting it.
I think it was 14 votes to 10 votes or 14 to 13 between him and Blake Snell, but I think it's the first time this year it said it wasn't Zach Gallen voted by baseball writers. So Justin Steele.
Zach Gallen got blown up tonight for at least 4 runs, maybe more.
Possibly more, as the Mets are likely to win that game. So the Cubs, I think they're going to sneak it out. The rough week here in Colorado. They do go to that Arizona team. They struggle in Arizona.
Easy.
They struggle. Hey, it's not easy to play in Colorado. I don't care what that team is. Colorado is a different animal when it comes to playing. And think about this. The Cubs are finishing a 14 games in 13 days stretch.
Yep.
Their pitching has been
Absolutely.
decimated. They've dealt with some nagging injuries here or there. And sometimes you just lose games. I'm not too worried. I'm going to call out my coworker who's freaking out. He's probably the worst Cubs fan I've ever met. Like every day it's either this team's the greatest in the world or this team's terrible. And today it was, this team reminds me of the 2018 team that folded down the stretch. 1, that team led the division. 2, that team had expectations. This team, did we expect them in the playoffs this year? You call them as a wild card team, but even I don't know if you believed it when you said it. Because
You have to say it. You have to say it as a Cubs fan. We're going to win it all. This is the year. We're back to that. This is the year that we turn it around.
this is that 2015 team in my mind, right? This is that year ahead of time, not expecting it to be the year that they make a run. They're not going to win 97 games.
I was about to say, that 2015 team was pretty underrated. We say that was a turnaround year, but that 2015 won 97 games.
But did anybody pick them to win 97 games that year?
Oh, absolutely not.
Right. Nobody picked them to win 84, 85, 86 games this year. They're probably going to end up at 86 and 76. Right? 10 games above
Something like
500. That's where they're at right now. 86 and 76. I'd take that. They were 74 and what was it? 88 last year? 74 and 88. That'd be a...
Who does the second team play in the wild card?
So that's my question for you. I'm going to ask you, would you rather be the 5 seed or the 6 seed if you're the Cubs?
So the 6th seed will play the third place division leader,
The Brewers.
which would be the Brewers, or you play the Phillies if you're the 2nd seed.
Mm-hmm. And I don't care if you're even the 4 seed and you have to play the Phillies. I don't want to be the 4 or the 5 seed. I want to be that 6 seed. You know why? And hear me out, Cubs fans, and hear me out, anybody. I want the 6 seed or the 3 seed. We're not going to get the 3 seed because I'm already telling you that ship has sailed on the division. 4.5 games back is going to be a lot tougher to catch. Probably going to be 4 games back after tonight. But either way, you're going to have to sweep Milwaukee in Milwaukee after playing the Braves for 3 games on the road, Hard to do. Set my sails on the division looking at the wild card. You play the 6th seed, you've got 3 home games in Milwaukee. Let's be honest. Going to Milwaukee in the playoffs?
Wrigley Field South.
South? I think you need to relocate.
I'm sorry,
compass.
yeah. I'm thinking Turner Field used to be Wrigley Field South.
So Wrigley North is the Milwaukee Brewers. Also, the winner of that series plays the Dodgers. The winner of the 4-5 series plays the Braves. Do you want to face the Braves? I don't think I want to face the Braves. I want to face the Braves in the NLCS. The Braves.
Exactly. I want to play the Braves any sooner than I have to.
Because the Braves will be rested and they're going to be able to set their rotation any way they want for the first series. That may not be the case for their second series. But if you get to play the Dodgers, I'm not trying to shit on the Dodgers here. I'm just saying I'd rather play the Dodgers than the Braves. So, perfect scenario in my mind, if you're not going to win the NL Central, you finish final wildcard spot, you sneak in. I know it's going to give us a heart attack because we're going to be like, are they going to make it? I don't know. But then you've got a much better chance at winning. I would put my money on the Cubs beating the Brewers more than the Cubs beating the Phillies. That's my thoughts.
Yes, I'm more comfortable with that. The Phillies have better bats. The Brewers might have a better rotation, right, but they don't have the offense that the Phillies do.
No, and I'd take Justin Steele and Kyle Hendricks in 2 games. They just did it to the Brewers a couple weeks ago.
Now I'm getting itchy. Now you said Steele, Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
Hendricks,
and who knows? You get Stroman. That's 3 weeks away. Stroman could give you 3, 4, even 5 solid innings potentially.
And then Wicks piggyback on a game 3.
Matchups right there, right? Like if you get into a jam and you just like what they did with John Lester and Kyle Hendricks in Game 7 of the World Series. But that's too far down the road. That's
a good point, though, of Stroman. Do you feel good about pitching Taillon in a playoff game? Starting.
No, not starting. Or
right. So I think
maybe he went 3 good innings today, and then the wheels fell off. Part of that was an error. PCA made a play that in my mind, it's an error as an outfielder. He didn't make an error, but he didn't catch it. He lost it in the sun. He should have caught it. Either way, I would be okay with Taillon in a 3-inning spurt. Right.
Right. I think that's how they have a lot of starters.
Right. So maybe even Taillon, Wicks, and then Stroman.
So I think it would be great to do Steele, Hendricks, and then let Stroman or Wicks and piggyback on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a solid 3.
Right.
If you combine those 2 right there.
Right. And we can talk that as we get closer.
That's lefty-righty.
Yeah, lefty-righty.
Now I'm getting
play the matchups and all of that. One more thing I have on the Cubs. We were at the game, and there was a wedding. One of the more ridiculous things I've ever seen at Wrigley Field. And it wasn't just like, do you take him? I do. No. I thought we were going to get communion in the damn stands. That was what, 25, 30-minute mess?
It was at least 20 minutes.
Yeah.
At least 20 minutes. They had bridesmaids in red dresses. They had the groomsmen, I think, in Cubs jerseys. Oh my goodness! I couldn't believe, like, every time I looked back over to our right, which it was right there in the next section over, I was like, oh my gosh, it's still going on. They had a priest in a full gown and everything.
Legit robes. Legit.
Yes.
Clergy. Like, they say Wrigley is a cathedral. I mean, I guess it is, but maybe not during a baseball game.
Yeah, that was saying, I don't care about the rest of you in here. I'm doing my thing. I don't care if you're here to watch a baseball game.
Yeah, I've heard that there's a lot of meaning to it on Facebook through the girl, whatever. Okay, rent it out. I'm sorry, I'm there to watch a baseball game, and for those inning and a half, I've paid more attention to the damn wedding than I did to the game, because a lot of people were shouting things at the wedding, and that's where the attention was diverted to. So that's my soapbox. I'm going to get off it. Congratulations to him and her. That's a beautiful place to get married. Maybe not. Yeah.
They did lose, though. Is that a bad omen that the Cubs lost on your wedding at Wrigley?
It's like rain on your wedding day.
That's good luck, isn't it? Rain on your wedding is good luck.
That's what they say. I don't know. Maybe secretly they're Diamondbacks fans. I don't know. So another thing to talk about real quick, Matt Olson doing something that has never been done before. Well, I guess technically it's been done before once, but he's likely to break it. He's got 51 home runs. That ties the Atlanta Braves franchise for most home runs ever. Do you know who it ties them with?
Henry Aaron.
Wrong.
Oh, hold on.
Andruw Jones.
That's what I was going to say.
No, you only get one guess. You already had trivia earlier, Michael. Come on. But so Matt Olson making some waves there. 51 home runs. He's had a great series versus the Phillies. And then...
So is he tied with Andrew?
Yeah, 51. Both of them have 51 home runs. So moving on, let's talk about the New York team. So big news, New York Yankees, Jason Dominguez out. He tore UCL. He's going to need Tommy John surgery. You mentioned it, though. It doesn't hurt next year totally.
Right. It just, I think, could affect his power. Like we saw Bryce Harper came back in May, and Bryce Harper was not Bryce Harper until August, I'd say. Which Bryce Harper is Mr. August. The dude goes off in August. Every year he goes off in August. But Bryce Harper did not have the... I mean, the dude only had like 7 home runs May, June, and July all together.
Do you think part of that was just the Phillies? Because Trey Turner really didn't turn it on until August either.
So you think something was in the water there in Philadelphia in the dugout?
As in...
No. You're saying that's why it was just the Phillies all together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Bryce Harper, because he had that giant thing he had to wear. Mm-hmm. A giant elbow brace that he had to wear.
So Harper had it in around Thanksgiving last year, and he came back in early May.
Early May.
And then Trevor Story had it in March. Right?
Oh, did he have it in March?
I thought it was
year?
spring training. I believe so.
Okay, that sounds right. He came back July?
August 8th is when he came back.
August 8th.
And he has been hot garbage. He's batting 185 with 1 home run at 221 OBP. So, yeah, maybe he rushed it. Here's my thought. You don't rush him back. You hopefully get him back. Because he's having the surgery now, right? So that's 2 months ahead of where Harper was.
Right.
So if you bring him back almost the same time Harper came from, think of where Harper was 2 months after he came back. Mid-July.
Heating up.
So maybe you slow... He's also younger by, 10 years than Harper? 8 years?
Yeah. And that 31 to 21 years old?
Yeah, 21 years old. He just turned 21, I think. So
your body heals a little better at 21.
A little better. I would still say wait till May 1st. Maybe let him not try to rush back. And then you don't put pressure on him either, right? You put pressure on him by putting him in the everyday lineup to try to consistently perform because you're going to need him next year if you're a Yankee fan. Those Yankees, I mean, you got Giancarlo Stanton towards the back end of his contract who has not been great. Hopefully you've got Judge healthy. Outside of that, who do you have in the outfield? Because Stanton's not even playing the outfield anymore. He's de-aging. So you got rid of Bader.
You know who they have in the outfield? Who they would dream of in center field?
Cody Bellinger.
Yes.
But I don't think the Cubs are going to let him walk. Oh, he fits. He fits perfectly in New York. His dad played for the Yankees. They wanted him at the deadline. I don't think Jed Hoyer's going to let Bellinger get away. Honestly, I'd rather pay Bellinger 7 years.
I love to hear you say that.
Honestly, I would give Bellinger that 7-year, $245 million contract that Trout has right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would give that to Bellinger over Trout if all things were similar, because Bellinger can give you multiple positions, left-handed batter, leadership. Not that Trout doesn't give you leadership, but yeah, that's, again, a conversation for a different day. But I don't see Bellinger in a uniform that isn't the Cubs, because the Cubs are getting one of 2 guys, Ohtani or Bellinger, in my mind. And the Ohtani thing, I think that ship has sailed. Honestly, I don't know if I want Ohtani anymore. I think it would be great. I would probably buy a Ohtani jersey. I'm more likely to buy a Bellinger jersey, I think, than an Ohtani jersey.
I was just going to say, Ohtani or Bellinger, either one of them signed, that's the jersey I'm getting.
Exactly.
I haven't bought a jersey I haven't bought a jersey. I bought the jersey behind me. Of course, I had to get the gold.
Yeah.
I had to get the gold Bryant, and then my wife got me another Bryant, the road jersey. So now I need a blue. I need a Cubby blue jersey, and so
A
whoever
Belly 24 Cubby Blue alternate jersey. Looks just perfect right there on the wall. You also have don't you have a KB player's jersey?
I do have a KB player's jersey, so I'm just missing the Bryant blue to round out having all of them.
Yeah. So
this is gold, but
yeah, it's the same deal. So the other New York team, a couple moves. They called up one of their top prospects. Prospect, I believe he was 88th ranked, Ronnie Marcio. Is that how you say it? Marcio. He had his first career home run. And then the Mets have won back-to-back games, I believe, versus the Arizona Diamondbacks this week. So thank you, AZ. Thank you, New York Mets, excuse me. But the big deal was they signed Milwaukee Brewers president, David Stearns, to kind of run the organization out there in New York. Stearns had been with the Brewers since 2015. And really, if you think about it, 2015 is about the time the Brewers started to turn around. Right, they hadn't done much. 2016 was the year the Cubs won the World Series, but then 17 the Brewers started to make some way, and then 18 was the year that they kind of stormed back with the whole Yelich and Lorenzo Cain deal.
I was just about to say, did he trade for Yelich?
Yep, he was part of the Yelich-Cain offseason 2017 going into 2018, and that, of course, includes Woodruff, Burns, and that whole ordeal. So he's the one who's kind of got his footprint and his handprints all over this Milwaukee Brewers team, and if you look at it, him and Craig Counsell, really, the two of them together. Right. So does that mean that Craig Counsell heads on over to the Mets next year? Because the other rumor is that Buck Showalter may walk away after the end of the season.
I wouldn't blame Buck. The Mets are not going to be competing next year. I'm sure Buck would get picked up. He was with the Orioles for so long, wasn't he?
He was with the Orioles for a while. He was with the Yankees for a long time, and then he coached the Orioles, and then he's been out for 3 or 4 years, and then he came back to coach the Mets or manage the Mets. Here's a hot take. I think Craig Counsell ends up as the New York Mets manager at the beginning of next year because
there it is, folks.
Because did you know that he is currently not under contract after this year?
I think that's a mistake by the Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
Craig Counsell has kept them year in and year out, and it. What also though, the Josh Hader trade, was that 2 years ago or last year?
That was last year.
That was a clubhouse killer for him. That one, I would be interested to see who they netted in that, but the Mets, I think they need this violation in here. They need to change things up.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Mets really meted this year. Ronnie Marcio should have been up in June. The dude was destroying the baseball all year. He should have been that guy that kind of tried to spark this team, and instead they sat on their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a good move if the Mets are going to be resetting, to bring somebody else in to say, here's what you got. You get the chance to deal with Pete Alonso and decide our future.
I don't think Pete Alonso's in a Mets jersey or uniform next year either. Did you see the play that he made the other day, or that he didn't make? Did you see Jeff McNeil's face?
I saw that caption of where it was. I saw the caption where it was saying that Pete Alonso said he wasn't catching another fly ball
until.
I don't know if I believe that necessarily,
right.
but
McNeil caught the ball at the first base position in the infield on the line, and Alonso was covering first base.
I don't blame Alonso there because there was a runner on first, so I don't necessarily blame him for that.
Go rewatch the play. It was where he was standing, when the ball was hit, it's where he was standing. The pitcher's job is to cover first base. Your job is to field the play.
So the Brewers got Taylor Rogers, Dinelson Lamet, and Robert Gasser, and Esteury Ruiz.
And Esteury is on the A's, yes.
So I don't love that trade.
No.
The Brewers decided to move on from the closer. Tried to sell high on him, and they got...
Yep, they got fleeced. And then the last thing is this Friday, so that'll be tomorrow as this podcast drops, is Roberto Clemente Day, September the 15th. Roberto, one of the greatest of the game, one of the greatest ambassadors of the game, but also the best philanthropist, one of the greatest humans of the game of baseball. You've heard of the Roberto Clemente Award, which is awarded to the best philanthropy player in baseball, the most philanthropic, a really prestigious award. I think outside of MVP or Cy Young, I think this is what a player would strive to win, because it's not necessarily an on-the-field award. It's an off-the-field award. And it's a point of pride, right? Roberto Clemente, just the stoicness of that name, and just like the meaning of winning that award. Really, I remember Jason Hayward continuously was nominated, Anthony Rizzo,
Right.
because of your off-the-field work. And it embodies just a human being, not a baseball player, right?
I think that's why so many people loved Anthony Rizzo too in the city of Chicago. Is the dude was cancer survivor, so he was constantly in and out of the hospitals, just doing great community work. Kyle Schwarber does great community work.
Yeah. So Roberto Clemente, if you don't know, he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates for 18 years, I believe. He's a Hall of Famer. He was the first Caribbean and Latin-born player elected into the MLB Hall of Fame in 1973. He died December 31st in 1972 in a plane crash, and I don't believe they ever found his remains from that plane crash. But what an incredible player. Hall of Famer, not just because of what he did off the field, but his on-the-field statistics, pretty good. 3,000 hits. Not a whole lot of people who hit 3,000 hits, hit 240 home runs, 83 stolen bases. Dude was a stud. If you don't know this already, in right field in Pittsburgh, they call it the Clemente Wall. He played right field. That wall stands 20 feet high in his honor. Did you know that?
Why is it 20 feet?
21 feet.
Oh, for his number. Oh,
He
no,
was
I didn't
number
know
21. Yeah, so it's the Clemente Wall in right field at PNC, and it's 21 feet high in honor of Roberto Clemente. But while he wore 21, that's not what he started his career at. A couple of facts is he started as number 13, I believe, for 2 years. So he's synonymous with the number 21. It's been retired by the Pirates, and that's, I believe, every athlete in the game on Friday is going to be wearing number 21. But, yeah, dude was fantastic. He was actually signed by the Brooklyn Dodgers, their AAA team, but he was eligible for the annual rookie draft, and the Pirates took him in 1954, so that's how he became a Pirate. So he could have been on the Dodgers. That would have been with Jackie Robinson, I believe. Can you imagine that? Him and Jackie Robinson on the same team?
Wow.
Yeah. He's the only player in 1956 to ever hit a walk-off inside the park grand slam.
Walk off inside the park grand slam. That's a mouthful right there.
He did against the Cubs, and moving on. He's won the Gold Glove Award every year from 1961 until his final season in 1972. So shares the record for the most Gold Gloves by outfielder with Willie Mays at 12. That just tells you how great of a baseball player he was. So hats off, Roberto Clemente. An awesome person, an awesome human, and let's celebrate him. There's one thing the Pirates can celebrate this year. So moving on, that is it on our baseball talk this week. We went a lot longer than I anticipated. Thank you for sticking with us. Before we go anywhere, we are going to be talking about our top 10 power rankings, brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. Head on over to 10thwhiskey.com. Use promo code BNB for 10% off your order. Again, that's 10% off anything on their website, whether that's a shirt, hat, glassware. Maybe you want to get some bitters. They've got barrels.
Or most importantly, bourbon.
Bourbon, whiskey, rye. They've also got gin.
Bourbon.
Their brandy is award-winning.
Christmas is coming up, folks. It's September. Get that early bird Christmas gift right here. 10% off your Christmas gifts right here.
10% off there, so go ahead on over to 10thwhiskey.com. Again, promo code is all capital BNB. So, Mikey, let's hear some of your top 10 teams. What do you want to go with this week?
How about we go with the bottom 5?
Okay, so 10 through 6.
10 through 6. At number 10, I've got the Chicago Cubs. Number 10.
Okay.
Number 9, I've got the
Are you doing
Seattle
a Pat Hughes?
What's the Pat Hughes?
Yeah. Oh, where you say number 10, the Chicago Cubs. Cubs, number 10.
Oh, no,
Or are you just trying to be a repeater?
I was just repeating the Cubs because they fell. So. Number 9, the Seattle Mariners. Number 8, the Philadelphia Phillies.
The what?
Number 7, the Milwaukee Brewers.
The Philadelphia? The Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. I had, as I went deep into Phila, I kind of lost breath there for a second. And finally, rounding out here on the podcast, number 6, the Houston Astros. Find out where my 5 through 1 fall on the full Power Rankings episode on YouTube.
And for my top 10, going from 10, we go the Toronto Blue Jays. Number 9, the Seattle Mariners. My Chicago Cubs are in 8th this week. The Philadelphia Phillies in 7th. And at number 6, the Milwaukee Brewers. Again, head on over to our YouTube page. That is the exclusive place to find our top 10 Power Rankings. Brought to you by 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company. That is youtube.com at Barrels and Barrels Pod. And don't forget to go subscribe, like to our pages, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or our Bourbon YouTube page, which you can find at youtube.com/@BNB Bourbon. That is it for this week's podcast. We've got more down the pike. We've got an interview with 10 Mountain Whiskey that I still have to edit. That'll be coming here soon. This upcoming week, look for the first and only review of Gentleman's Cut Bourbon Whiskey from Steph Curry. If you haven't seen that out yet, that comes from Boone County Distilling Company. That is going to be the first review on YouTube from that whiskey. So you'll hear our thoughts on Steph Curry's bourbon. We've also got Ben Holiday. We've got more 10th Mountain to talk about. We've also got, what other stuff did I give you? You've got like 6 or 7 samples. We've got another 13th Colony.
We've got Blood Oath coming.
Blood Oath 9, whenever you get that in the mail. And we'll see that in a month. But
hey, USPS is pretty slow.
USPS is pretty slow. Michael's even slower. What else? We've got more 13th Colony coming up. Yeah, all bunch of cool stuff. And this week,
some Nashville Barrel Company stuff.
Nashville Barrel Company. And this weekend, I'm sure I'm going to grab a couple more bottles at Kentucky Bourbon Fest. So go check us out at Barrels and Barrels Pod on YouTube, at Bourbon or at BNB Bourbon on YouTube as well. Don't forget, if you're a fan of baseball, you made it this far on the podcast. I hope you are. And if you've ever wanted to know your statistics, what it looks like at the game, go check out Memento, the Memento Live Sports Scrapbook. Use promo code Bourbon Baseball, all lowercase, to get early access to the beta testing of this app. So this will tell you how many games you've seen in what stadium, how many times you've seen X team, and what their record is down the road. And then down the road, it's even going to tell you, hey, in games that I've been at, Cody Bellinger is 15 for 100 or 5 for 3. Not 5.
He's hit 5 home runs.
Yeah, 5 home runs.
He's hit a home run every time.
Right. So that's something cool that we give you early access to, all thanks to our friends at Memento. That is AC Memento, Memento Live Sports Scrapbook. Again, use that promo code Bourbon Baseball. I am Brandon. That is Michael. We talk high proof, high heat. This is Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. The Jackie Robinson episode. Jackie Robinson, Roberto Clemente, full circle. 2 of the greats of our game, 2 of the best of our game. And we paid homage to both of them in one episode, which I don't think we were ever thinking we were going to, but it just so happened to line up that they both came together today. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, as well as Google and iHeartRadio podcasts. Don't forget to rate us and review us. You leave that review, we'll shout you out here on the podcast. Let us know your thoughts, what you think about our podcast, and all of that. As we say that, the Marlins just beat the Brewers to end the day today. As we end the podcast, I am Brandon. That is Michael Burns. Michael Burns, any final thoughts or words for our friends, family, and listeners?
Just 2 words, Brandon. Let's go.